Good morning. Today we'll be talking about caregiving. We'll be talking about compassion and support for the ill, which is something that is very sensitive and something not many people talk about. Good morning, Dr. Odusote, Dr. Femi, and Dr. Osikomaiya. A pleasure to have all three of you with us today. If I may start off with Dr. Odusote. Dr. Odusote, you have a care home. Can you tell us a bit about why you set up the care home and what are the essential roles and responsibilities of a caregiver in supporting an ill person?
Thank you very much, Pamela. It's so good to be on this show. The Winiseph care home that was set up maybe about in 2020, that's 2010, that was when we started operations. And the home really is a care home for the elderly, not necessarily the people who are ill, though majority of them at the home have one form of disability, dementia, Alzheimer's, and etc. So the home was started maybe because I'm actually interested in caring for the elderly, especially those who are challenged. In my own case, I had an auntie who had a stroke that took away her voice and her speech and everything. And she was at home. All the children were abroad. And I used to have so much compassion. She was lonely, nobody, even though she had carers, but these were not professionals. So that was why I just thought, okay, when I retire from government service, I'll just go to set up a home where these people can come, maybe on a daily care basis, come there and then go home. So that's how we started. And then when you have a place like that, you need to get people that will care for the elderly. Caring is very important. As a background, usually caregiving in the past was done by family members, maybe a niece or an auntie or for the ill. But now it's become a profession. People actually go in and train as caregivers. And their role in the society now is actually quite important because we have so many ill people, not necessarily in hospital, they might be at home, and you need people that will stay, their children, everybody is busy running morning till night. So you need people who will be compassionate, and trained as to what to look for, especially in an ill person. So that's why the training is important, not just a family member who maybe there's an emergency wouldn't know what to do. So maybe for now we'll stop there.
Okay, thank you so much. If I can just go to Dr. Femi, if you can tell us, because I know you do a lot of training and development, particularly around caregivers. Can you tell us what are the most important qualities you look for in a person, and what are the kind of skills you instill in such caregivers?
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And I think caregiving is just like Dr. Odusote mentioned, it's something that is becoming quite evolving in our society. And obviously, there's need for it now more than it's been before. Before, it used to be thing of the developed countries, and looking at the way things are in our country now, I think it's becoming quite important. And I do a lot of trainings for caregivers. What we tend to teach, or we tend to get people to be familiar with, what I call core competencies that are necessary for people to be able to actually function safely, efficiently, and to bring all those attributes, like you mentioned, compassionate attributes, being empathetic, knowing what it means to be patient-centered, and, all this privacy, dignity, sometimes long working. So there are a lot of things that, we tend to get people to bring either on board or to come and learn when they are, planning to be a caregiver. When you're caring for someone, obviously, these people rely on us. They are either as a result of one form of either disability or situation. It can be physical, it could be mental, it could be emotional, a situation that people find themselves and they can't help themselves and they need the kind of support from others. So during the course of training, what we tend to empower people to do is to understand those core competencies. Part of it will also be things like maybe information governance. You need to understand how to handle people's data. It's not all disability that you need to just, keep doing things. And so we get people to understand all those, and communication is very key when it comes to caregiving. Then we also need to know that we have a duty of care as a caregiver. If you don't, as such, you will be in a situation where you can even open the floor, the situation to more of a legal, sort of shortfalls where people then see a loophole where they can come in. And some of the caring might involve lifting, handling, and all that. How do you handle people? How do you lift people? And some of them can be even lonely. So we try to get people to understand what it means to work as a lone worker. So lone working is some of the things that one of those things that we bring in. Ethics is very, very important. People need to understand, that when you're caring for people, it's not about you doing things to them. They have their rights, and you need to respect that right. You need to know when to, obviously look at the watershed area to discuss things with the family, and relative, and when do you bring friends in? Safeguarding is another very important thing that will make people to try and understand, because there are a lot of things that happens around caring. Sometimes you find yourself in a position that you think you are helping, or you're actually abusing someone. So how do we then safeguard our elderly or even the young ones? So there are all these attributes and things that we then tend to bring in. Then one thing that is very important is, as a carer, you also need to care for yourself. There must be that balance whereby you need your mental health is very important. So we tend to get people to understand where you're tipping too deep to one side, and then find how you balance yourself. Again, other area that is of importance when you're caring is also to look at the occupational health perspective of things. How do you make sure that during the course of helping, you don't cause problem for yourself? Infection prevention and control. You need to know how to handle people in situations so that you don't start, either giving them what they don't have, or you get what you do not take into that,
Yeah.
So I think that's just to brush it a bit. I think that it's quite deep, and there's quite a lot to learn.
So there's a lot. I think it's one of those areas that people don't really think about, particularly when you have the elderly at home. They just gloss over such things. So, Dr. Kofo, if I can go back to you, what are some of the misconceptions that people have about caregiving?
I think even those who go into it professionally, they maybe because of the situation in this country, they think they're just there to earn money. So what you expect from them, most times you don't. I deal with a lot of them, because at the home I have like about 25 elderly people, and you have the carers. You expect that, they would have gone through this training. We actually take people for internship after they've done the classroom and basic training. So they come to us, and what we make them with that, you're coming is like a companion to these people, whether they are ill or they are not. You take, they're supposed to take care of them, talk to them, not necessarily acceding to all their, requirements, because that's one thing they have to know. You have to be able to do what is right for them at the correct time, not because and then to actually, in my own home, I just train them, just take them as your grandmother. How you would treat your grandmother, They will tell you to do something. If you know it's not good for them, it's not to shout on them, but to let them know that, Mama, this is what you should do. Let us do it this way with compassion, with empathy, and all that. So that's what we expect. But many times you don't, they just think it's a job. They come in and the turnover rate, it's about a bit high.
It's very high.
Because,
I can imagine.
yes.
Because their expectations too are not met. Wow. I think sometimes these things are so there's such a delicate balance between, expectations and on both sides. I think it's a difficult one to work with. But as you said, the most important thing is compassion and empathy. And once that is there, then I think, it can work. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Femi, for being here to answer our questions. A big question for me is, how does caregiving differ when you're supporting a chronically ill patient versus when you're supporting somebody, for example, with a temporary illness? Is there a difference?
Well, I think in terms of, when I was talking earlier on, we talk about core competencies that you need to bring on board when you're caring for people. Empathy, like you said earlier on, like was mentioned by Dr. Odusote earlier on, is key to caring. And it's all about you putting yourself in the shape or where that person finds themselves and then being able to help them. It involves a lot of communication and a lot of, hands-on. And whether it's chronic, whether it's acute, I think you need to bring all these things in. It doesn't matter. So the skills that I mentioned earlier on, especially patient-centered care, when you talk about patient-centered care, sometimes it sounds so vague, but what it means is partnership. You must be in partnership with this person who is ill, whether they're chronically ill or they're acutely ill. The only difference sometimes is maybe the energy that you bring into things. In an acutely healed person, maybe the skills might be a little bit different when it comes to what their needs are. And you have to understand that need. And I must pause here to mention something. When I take the carers on training, I always say that as a carer, you're there to support. Somebody is going to have done more like a risk assessment and look at what you need to be able to function safely and efficiently. Once that is done, we then say, okay, these are the roles, these are the things that we need. If the person is acutely ill, these are the needs. But the core competencies that you have, for example, communication, you're able to communicate effectively with this person. You're able to empathize with them. You're able to be patient-centered with them. Those core competencies, you're still going to use them, whether acute, whether chronic.
Okay. I think that's interesting. So talking about empathy, talking about compassion, I think sometimes there's weakness, particularly within a chronically ill person, and the person may have some chronic conditions, be chronically anemic, and they're weak because maybe they even need blood. So Dr. Oshikomayya, coming over to you now, what kind of situations would it be, in this kind of setup that people would need blood to function?
So really, most elderly people are usually anemic. Some of them might be due to poor diet. Some of them have underlying cancers that they're already undergoing treatments. Some of them have conditions with chronic blood loss, like peptic ulcer, bleeding peptic ulcers. And, they all come to these care homes as very weak, and they really need regular intake of blood, regular transfusion of blood. And so in the spirit of compassion, you need compassion to take care of them. We also need people to be compassionate enough to donate blood and provide a sustainable supply of blood in the blood banks so that anytime this is required, they can have it. And so really, and this is something that we don't find easily. It's not a culture to donate blood. Just as you have said, you keep telling your carers that this is not a job. You need to be empathetic towards them. You need to be compassionate towards them. So generally, this is not a culture that we find easily. So we reach out to people a lot to continue to show compassion and donate blood. And we tell them who needs the blood. So it's an opportunity for people to know that many elderly ones, be at home, be in the hospitals, be chronic cases, be acute cases. For example, because their bones are brittle, they might fall, they might have fractures, they might need to have surgeries, and they would also need blood to sustain them during those surgeries. So the role of blood and blood transfusion in caring for our elderly ones, be it acutely in hospitals or when they are being managed after an acute case in the homes, really cannot be overemphasized. And I don't know if it is time for me to talk about this. We are having a beautiful donation drive by the Healthcare Federation of Nigeria. The thing is that Healthcare Federation of Nigeria encompasses all healthcare facilities. So there are many hospitals, laboratories, care homes, training centers that encounter people, young, elderly, that really do need blood. So we are trying to expand access to healthcare. Really, that is really the theme of this beautiful what do you call it, walk that is used to commemorate the anniversary that we are having right now. So this expansion to healthcare involves sustainable availability of sustainable supply of blood. So please come in, donate blood. It's going to be a beautiful work. People, youths, elderly ones will all be there. You are both caring for yourself by having fresh
Can you just
bread.
give us some, can you give us some more details? Where should they come to and when?
Beautiful. Yes, we are going to be meeting at the National Museum and we'll be walking to Falomore Bridge. It's going to be a walk with a lot of music, a lot of activities going on there. So the work is to increase the awareness that, first of all, the Healthcare Federation has been on for a while, and also that there is a need to continue to donate blood to be able to manage people, be it young, old, acute, or in chronic cases. So when we get to Falomore Bridge, we are going to have a setup there for you to donate blood. You can be rest assured there will be security there. There will be security personnel there to ensure that you are safe. There will also be the LASMA, that's Lagos State and Traffic Management Agency there to control people. There'll be also, I believe that there might be the neighborhood watch there to ensure that everybody is safe and there is no form of security challenges for you. And following the donation, you'll be well cared for, you'll be celebrated, you are a voluntary donor, will celebrate you. As I said, there's really a very poor culture for donating blood. So if we have one person donating blood, we will celebrate that person, because that person will be saving 3 lives. I really don't know if that life could be one of your relatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we look forward to people coming there on Saturday morning at 7 o'clock this Saturday. So, Dr. Odusote, if we can just go to you. It's been very interesting because a question was asked earlier that says, when should people come into a care home? Again, as Dr. Odusote said, it's not our culture to donate blood, but it's something that we need and we have to do. It's also not our culture to put our elderly in care homes. And yes, sometimes there's a need to do so. So can you explain to us now how and when this should occur?
Really, there are 2 scenarios here. Because even though I run a home for the elderly, I still think the best care will be received at home with your family, and all that. But what we have discovered running this Winiseph care home in the last 12 years is that you don't have good helps at home anymore. People are busy. Your children, I have somebody in the home, 5 children, none of them is in Nigeria. And the woman is elderly, in her late 80s with dementia and all that. So she was at home before, and it's when you cannot perform normal activities of daily living, and there's no one to do them for you at home. And when I talk about activities of daily living, being able to get up from bed, being able to go to the toilet, being able to bathe yourself, feed yourself, and when you cannot do that, and there is nobody at home to help you do that. That is a point. And I mean, if I share my experience, when we started the home, just like you said, because of our culture, for 1 year, we didn't have a single client because, the need. I would actually say it's only in the last 5-6 years with social media that the homes are open now, because many children are abroad, and then you have a website, they look at you, somebody will call from Australia. My mother is not being well cared for at home. Can she come to your home? So the point to bring them is when the home facilities fail and these people cannot cope with normal activities of daily living, then it is better for them to be in a home where you provide caring, compassionate, empathetic caring 24/7. So at this point, we'll take over. So it would depend on the family, really, as to when you give out and say, rather than lock them at home. We hear a lot of stories. People will lock their parents and mother at home, go to work, and it's when they come back that woman will get any company at all. And then you leave home at 5 a.m., get back at 9. What time do you have to spend with this elderly woman? So we shouldn't consider our own selfishness. What will people say? We should have compassion of these lonely elderly people who are left at home morning till night.
Now, this program has come to an end so quickly. I think we are going to have to talk more about this another time because we've just started. There's so many issues that we haven't actually touched on. But do you have any last words for our listeners, Dr. Femi?
Okay, thank you so much. I think this, caregiving is evolving in our country, and just as has been said today, there have been a lot of needs. You have people's families are not around, and they need their loved one to be cared for. And we need to do it in a way that is professional. We need to understand what it's all about. I think caring needs to be taught, and there are a lot of skills that can be brought into it to make it more professional and to make sure that people benefit from it. I will employ us as a nation to open up to this and then learn the right way to do it well. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kofo, any last words?
Yes. I just to emphasize that caregiving now is a profession. And in fact, if I may share, a knowledge with you, the Nigerian Senior Citizen Center, in conjunction with the National Board of Training and Education, are actually incorporating caregiving into the civil service structure. And they are training them, so it's no longer just anybody, just a maid to care for an elderly or an ill person. You need somebody who has been trained, so who can now offer this compassionate and empathic care to the people that need it most.
Thank you so much. Dr. Osikaiya.
In the spirit of compassion, please join us in the road walk, the health walk, and the blood donation drive with our meetup point at National Museum Onikon. And we'll be taking a walk to Falomo Under Bridge for the blood donation drive. This starts by 7 a.m. on Saturday, the 22nd of February. And if you do not want to join in the health walk, we'll be waiting for you on the Falomo Bridge for the blood donation drive. Thank you. We're expecting you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for new video updates.